Hi everyone, my name is Alex. I'm one of the co-founders here at 3DPets. I've got my pal Eve with us here today and we're going to be doing a casting video tutorial. So we're going to start by going over the items that come included in the casting kit. First, we have our casting instructions, the stockinette, the casting tape, 2 sets of gloves, safety cutter, scissors, Sharpie, and cutting guide strip. Okay, I want to emphasize the first 3 points on the casting instructions here. The first one is if you haven't filled out Form 2 already, which provides us a few additional details about your dog, I'd like you to do that. You can scan the barcode here to do that. We'll also send you a few emails regarding that. Something to remember is while you're casting your pup, they have to remain straight. Their spine has to remain aligned and you want their head upright. If they're twisted left or right, we're gonna have you redo the cast. So it's imperative that you do that. I recommend having a number of helpers to help keep that aligned while that cast is drying. And then third, we want you to take care of doing the casting within 1 month of receiving the kit because some of the pieces of this kit can start to expire after that period of time. Okay, we're gonna get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on the rubber gloves. Okay, so I've got my 2 helpers here, Lydia and Kristen, who are gonna help hold Eve in the right position. The first thing I'm going to do is grab the stockinette and my shears. The first thing we wanna do is we wanna lay this out. We wanna see how long and make sure it is long enough for our dog. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out where we're gonna cut our hole for Eve's remaining leg. You wanna do that significantly below the neckline here because this expands. If you do it too high, it just won't fit properly, and we want the stockinette to come up high on the neckline. So we're gonna make our little V cut right about here for Eve. So I'm gonna grab our shears. I'm just gonna do a little V cut just like that. That's all you need because it's going to expand. And now we're gonna slip this over Eve. You can bunch this up like a sock. Make sure you are slipping it over in the right direction. You know where that hole that we just cut is. All right, guys, we're gonna prop her up. Come on, Eve. This is exactly what you're gonna experience at home too, so. All right, so we'll slip this over. Thank you, girl. We're gonna find our hole that we just cut. Plop that through, there we go. Roll this down. And you can see we have a nice covering of Eve's neckline here. We're covering the amputation site and we're coming all the way down below her sternum, which is really good. All right, that is the first step. Okay, I wanna make a quick note about the casting tape before you get started. The most important thing is you have about 1 minute of working time when you go to open these. But before you even open these, I want you to go ahead and make sure you squeeze every one of these tapes and make sure that they are soft and malleable. If they are not, they have already expired. That's why it's so important to get started before that month's period. Additionally, based on your dog and their parameters, we're gonna send you a specific type of tape and we're gonna send you a certain amount of tape depending on those different bits of information. Okay, so those are a few important key points about the tape prior to us getting started. Okay, as we get started, something really important to note that I talked about earlier is making sure your dog's head is upright, facing forward, that their spinal alignment is nice and straight, and that the stockinette comes up to where their collar is, if not a little bit above that, because we're gonna need to capture all of the neckline here. All right, so as I mentioned, we're gonna take our cutting guide. We're gonna place this along the spine as best we can. Lydia is helping me by holding that in place. If you need to cut this down, depending on the length of your dog, you can do that. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is one at a time, we're going to open a casting tape roll and we're gonna quickly submerge this into that bowl of lukewarm water. And I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze this and make sure I get water into all of this tape. Eve, you're doing wonderful, thank you. All right, so now that I have squeezed the water into this, I'm going to quickly wring it out. Again, we have about 1 minute of working time. I'm going to open up the tape like this. Thank you, Lydia. And I'm just going to start by coming around her torso, behind her leg, just to get one tight wrapped in. You don't want to suffocate them, but you want it to be snug. So now that we have a roll, I'm going to come around here. I'm going to come around the front of her. An important thing to note is you don't want to go off of the stockinette. If you go onto the fur, the casting tape will dry onto the fur, and you don't want that. All right, so I'm coming around. I like this first roll to be the one that captures a lot of the details up here on the neckline. Don't be afraid to come up too high. It's important for us to do that. And you can see that I'm covering all of the open areas where the stockinette is. Now I've finished this roll. It's okay if that's loose like that. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna start on the next one. Kristen, my helper, is helping me hold that up. And you can see I'm working quickly, but I'm not panicking as I'm doing this. So same thing, we're gonna squeeze the water into this. We're gonna wring it out. I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna pick up where I left off with this last piece of tape. And I'm gonna come around and cover that. All right. And again, we wanna make sure that we cover everything open here on this side. See this little hole? We wanna get that covered. So I'm gonna come back around. Come underneath like this. Okay, now we've covered that area. We're gonna come back, making sure we come below the sternum line here. It's important we capture all this information. And you can see for Eve that 2 rolls is doing a pretty good job, but just for the sake of this demonstration, we're going to do this 3rd roll. Again, it's okay if that tape falls like that, perfectly normal. We're gonna open up this last roll. Dunk this in our water. Same as the last 2 rolls. Wring it out. Eve, you're doing absolutely wonderful. Now for some dogs, treat incentives or lick mats are super helpful, so don't be afraid to do that. But having a few people here to help really makes things quite wonderful. And again, this is the most important part here in the neckline, so I'm just gonna make sure I come around and I cover up all these open areas and make this nice and snug. Now that I feel good about all the areas that I've captured, we're gonna start to let this cure. All right, so I've just run out of this last roll. I'm gonna take my hand and I'm just gonna smooth this. We're giving the pets to Eve here, making sure this neckline is nice and tight. She's doing a lovely job. Lydia is doing a wonderful job holding her hind end up. Again, we're making sure that her spinal alignment is straight, her neck is upright, and she is facing forward. Now you're gonna start to feel this harden, and depending on the type of cast that you get will determine how quickly you wanna move with this. For the soft cast material, which comes in this packaging, you're gonna wanna let this set for about 4 to 5 minutes. For the other casting tape that comes in a smaller package, that will set up a little bit quicker. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us prior to beginning this process. Okay, so while this is curing, I'm gonna pop my gloves off and I'm gonna get my Sharpie ready. And the Sharpie is really important because this is gonna help mark where our spinal alignment is, because sometimes this cutting guide doesn't go exactly where we need it to. All right, so looking at her neck here, I'm just gonna make a V on this that marks the front of where her spine connects to her neck, and then down here at the base, we're gonna do that other V. And if you wanna draw a line connecting those 2 V's, you can do that too. Another thing I like to do is if there's a remaining limb or a remaining stump, you can circle that. Eve has a full disarticulation, so we don't have to worry about that. And any other details, we're gonna wait once we take the cast off. Okay, we've been waiting about 2 minutes now. So we're gonna grab our clever cutter, which looks like this. You're gonna always wanna start up near the head and work your way away. Make sure that your helper is not in the direct line of sight of your elbow. We don't wanna be punching anybody in the face in this process. And sometimes you do need to give some good tugs. All right, so we're gonna start. We're gonna follow our yellow cut strip guide here, and we're just gonna work our way down, just like this, giving little tugs. Eve's doing a great job. Just make sure you're on track here. All right, so we've now trimmed that off. We can pull this out. Eve, you're doing a lovely job. Let's just come back through and double check that we've got this all cut through. All right, beautiful. Now we're gonna take our safety scissors. This is what this safety guide here is for. And we're gonna just pull this away and trim this off. You're gonna wanna make sure you don't trim any hair away, but it's okay if you hit a little bit, hair grows back. You just wanna make sure you're not hurting your pet in the process. All right, I'll work my way back to front now, kind of meeting in the middle, going nice and slow, nice and gentle. There's no need to rush this. I can see I missed a little bit of the casting tape cut here, so I'm gonna come in with my clever cutter. Boom, there we go. We're gonna slip this off of her. Evie did a wonderful job. Now this is very important. You want to let this set up properly for the next like 5 minutes. What I like to do is place it on a surface that'll allow it to cure upside down like this. That's going to allow the shape to take properly. But you can see here that we got a really, really great mold. This is something that our team will be able to work with. Like I mentioned, we have our 2 marks here of where the spine is. You can see that my cutting guide wasn't exactly in line here, but I've made a mark of that while it was on Eve, which is really important. But my end one did come straight down. Again, we're going to use this marker to mark if there's a residual limb, and you can do that with this. You want to put their name on the cast. This is super important. The dog's first name and your last name, so that if we get this, we can identify who it comes from in case the label doesn't have that information on it.